Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want, in my short call, to begin by acknowledging the many and growing number of New Zealand couples for whom fertility issues are not straightforward. I think Steve Chadwick mentioned that 15% of New Zealand couples have difficulty in conceiving naturally and 5% resort to IVF. And there could be any number of reasons why that could be. Our new first parents are getting older, obviously. Diet, lifestyle, even men wearing jeans that are too tight have all been considered to be causal. Cycling, exactly, apparently has some problem, which is a very good reason not to do too much of it. So there's a number of reasons that scientists are still coming to understand, and there's no doubt that's a difficult journey, but I think one made easier thanks to the outstanding work of our medical scientists. I was amazed at the statistic that my colleague Dr. Jackie Blue came up with, that I think she said 70% of people having 2 courses of IVF are successful in conceiving, and that's probably pretty considerably more successful in the old-fashioned way, although not nearly as fun. And it's certainly a tribute, I think, that in the 32 years since Louise Brown was born, our human-assisted reproductive technology has come as far as it is. To that end, I think it would also be a rare thing indeed for a Health Select Committee anywhere in the world to be chaired by someone who could speak with as much authority on human-assisted reproductive technology as the committee's chair, Dr. Paul Hutchison, himself an obstetrician and gynaecology specialist, and with a wealth of experience on this issue. And I think under his leadership, the Health Committee, one that's pretty collegial overall, was certainly benefited greatly from his wisdom and experience in this area. That's not to say we agreed on all things, and I think the member for the Greens, Mr Haig, is an example of that, with a suggestion that the bill should be subject to review, and Mr Lees-Galloway also mentioned it, I think after 5 years. So I want to just touch on that, pulling back from the bill specifically, and just address the issue of review generally. Because it seems to me there's a bit of a mood for review from the Greens, and a preference for somehow curtailing the powers of the executive by instituting this review process in bills that are passed. And it is, to my mind, I think, both unnecessary and logistically cumbersome. In this bill, I think an issue was identified, a remedy was put in place, and amending legislation, this bill, is going to be passed, I hope. So no need for an arbitrary review. Cumbersome too, because we could easily become bogged down in reviews of bills because an act arbitrarily requires it, getting in the way of other matters that might be more pressing. And as Mrs Roy mentioned, the science in the past may have been described as uncertain. I think I prefer to consider it to be dynamic. And as members Heather Roy and Paul Hutchison pointed out, the uncertainty around how long embryos, gametes and eggs will last in this state has largely gone away. And in the UK, I understand, in certain circumstances, there is provision for storage of embryos and gametes for up to 55 years. Who on earth would want them after 55 years, I'm not sure, but it is a measure that the science actually does allow the storage for that length of time. So I think the recommendation that a 10-year limit not be a hard limit is a really good one. And there's many reasons why we might not be able to find the people who have ultimate ownership of them, and it would be inappropriate to have the embryos just destroyed after 10 years and a day. Finally, I want to add my thanks to the officials who did a great job in answering our questions and the suggestions of the committee and the submitters. I think they were mostly from the Ministry of Justice, particularly Mr Beresford, I think, who we'll be seeing during the committee stage. But I just want to commend their efforts in helping the committee through this process. With those comments, Mr Speaker, I commend the bill.
Call the Honourable